Aloha, everybody, and welcome to part two of my introduction to Just Talking 24. I'm Cam, and after watching the first part of this, I realized that you really don't know anything about me, and I hope to change that. So let's just jump right into it. As I told you before, I'm 69 years old. I live in Hawaii, and I have been working most of my life. I've been working since I was 14 years old. The first job that I ever had was to unload a container at a trucking company. The owner of the company was a friend of my uncle's, and he got me the job on the weekends. Myself and this Samoan kid would hand palletize whatever product was in the containers. Usually in the containers, it had produce or rice, a lot of rice. The rice would be in 100 pound, 50 pound, or 25 pound bags. And we would have to palletize them, put them on pallets. And it was explained to me that they didn't do that on the mainland because the pallet represented almost one layer of product. And in those days, they didn't get charged for the weight, they got charged by the container. So if you brought, if you could bring in a container with an extra layer of rice, you're talking tonnage, bringing in tonnage. And so we'd get the two stacks of pallets. They would back the container to the loading dock, and you take the bags out and you'd load them up with the rice. It was 100 pound bags. You put 20 bags per pallet or 1 ton per pallet. Likewise, if it was 50 pound bags, you put on 40 bags, make a ton. And then a forklift operator would come and take the pallets away, and then you'd grab another pallet. And then you'd eventually, empty out the container. And right around then, it was time for lunch, have lunch. And they bring another container, and it could be something else. Could be potatoes, could be carrots, could be cabbage, whatever. If it were in if it were produce, a lot of times it was a reefer. It was a refrigerated container, and not freezer. No, not a freezer. It was a reefer. So it would be about to 40 degrees, 45 degrees, and on hot days you like that in the beginning because you know you get warm, cold, warm, cold. But you learn that even if it's warm outside, you wear a jacket because if not, you get sick. You catch a cold. But that was my first job, and I got paid $10 a day, $10 a weekend, $5 a day. That came out to about 75 cents an hour or something. But I mean, in those days it was good money. $5 a day for 8 hours work. Yeah. I know today people would say, "Are you crazy?" No, not really. Was You think about it. You paying two kids $10 a day, or $5 a day. What $10 a day to unload two containers. That's a good deal. That's really cheap. Um, but it was something. It was work, and I did that for a little while, and then summer came around. And I turned 15, and I went to work for the canning plant. Now, in Hawaii in those days, we still had a large agricultural community, primarily two products. They were pineapple and sugarcane. Well, the sugarcane was pretty much automated. We had sugar mills, but there was not a lot of manual labor done on them at that time. But the pineapple, that was all by hand. They planted it by hand, they picked it by hand, transported it to the canneries. We had three canneries running, and they were operated by Libby's, Libbys, CPC. I believe that meant California Pacific Canners, and the biggest one, Dole, Dole. In fact, Dole Corporation owned the island of Lanai. I believe his name is Murdoch. He owned the island of Lanai. And you'd get the cans. But see, all of this product, all of this pineapple, and they turned the pineapple into bran, which is the peels, and the bran would be sent back to the dairies for food for the girls. Um, and then the product itself was made into slices, crushed, and juice. But all of these products have to be put into cans, and it's cheaper if we made the cans here. And the cannery itself is very tight. The machines are there, but the human walkway, the entrance egress way, the progress ways, and everything is pretty tight. And I was a big boy. Okay, when I was in high school, I was 6'3", 390. I was big. And so they took one look at me and said, this kid is not working in a cannery. He's too big. So they put me to work in the canning plant. And that's the plant that makes cans. And that was right almost smack in the middle. There were three canning facilities or production facilities. And in the middle was the canning plant. And that's where I worked. And I worked it for one summer. I mean, it was almost like a rite of passage in Hawaii to work at the cannery. Everybody worked in the cannery. If you were from the middle class, the working class, it's like almost when I see these movies on Pittsburgh and everybody worked at the mill, steel mills and stuff like that. Same thing. It's just a rite of passage. You worked at the cannery. You smell like pineapple. To this day, I really don't care for pineapple. My wife worked at the cannery. She worked in the inspecting office, which is a joke because we'd say, what, make sure you got pineapple in the pineapple cans. And she goes, pretty much, yeah. It's quality control. That's what it was. But they call it inspection. But she loves her pineapple till today. Every so often we'll buy a fresh pineapple, or like Christmas is coming up and then I'm going to be putting pineapple on our ham. And she loves it. Her favorite cake is pineapple upside down cake. But I worked in the cannery. And then when school started, I got a job working at a service station. And I worked there. This is all part-time. I worked Saturday, Sunday, and then 2 days during the week. And the 2 days were usually for about from 2:30 or 3 o'clock to 6:30. It was just 3 hours here, 3 hours there. But weekends was the days that we worked long hours. I mean, for me to work a 12-hour shift on a Sunday was no problem. In fact, I grew to become manager, like that title, for a Sunday manager. And on Sundays, what I could do was I could do oil changes and lube chassis, change batteries, change tires. Well, we're pumping gas. We also would wash and wax cars on the side. And it was a fun time. We had a lot of fun. My service station was right at the foot of the University of Hawaii, right across Varsity Theater, if you're familiar with Hawaii. And it was in the road that went to Varsity Circle. Varsity Circle was where there was this building called Hale Aloha, which means House of the Rainbow. And Nakua was over there, the strength of warriors. And it basically was the athletic dorm. So most of the athletes would stop by our service station. My boss was an Advent. He was a fan. He was a fanatic. He was a supporter. And he'd take care of the boys, give them money, buy them food, stuff like that. The players would come, and a lot of the local players came. and I got to know them too. And in fact, so I got to know them so well that I got into trouble because of them. But that's another story for another time. So I worked in a service station through high school, and then when I graduated high school, I went to college. I went to UH, and I still worked at the service station for a little while more. And then I've ventured, did odd and end jobs. I've worked bars. I've worked door. Um, I've cleaned, kitchens, cleaned grease traps. What else have I done? I've worked at pool halls. I've managed a slot car track. I have managed an awning company. And awnings, they're not big things now, but they were during the during the coming out of the condominiums. They were on the lanais, on the, basically on the lanais. We had curtains that rolled up and down. The curtains were made out of either vinyl or they were canvas, and they're all fire coated. But these are curtains that would basically block out the sun and turn your patio space, which was a patio lanai, into, and sometimes an extra room. People use them as extra rooms. So we would install drop curtains. We'd install railing curtains on the rail to block the wind. It was very windy up there. And it was a good business, really good business. And I was the exterior manager for that company. I handled all installations, repairs, some estimations. And it was fun. It was really fun. And after the awning shop, I worked at a towing company. And that got me into my first business. And that was, I owned and operated a towing company by myself. I was a sole proprietorship. And I'm really a towing and recovery specialist. But I specialized in dealerships. All I did was their breakdowns. We didn't have a really intensive auto club. AAA was just starting when I was when I had my company. In fact, AAA didn't own their own tow trucks. They wanted to contract different companies, and they would pay you $25 for a tow, which was laughable. But that's how they got their start. And I told them, you guys really want to do it right. You guys should get your own trucks, and employ people and staff them and run them and everything. And they said, well, we just started, and eventually in the mainland, because they were doing it in the mainland. And so Hawaii is always, we're the last to catch up, really. I mean, we're only 5 hours away by plane, but we're 2 years away by development. And to give you an example of how back we were, when I had my towing company, this is in the 80s. I started my towing company in 83 and I went to 94. But I had a reason. I went to the mainland in 1984 or 85. And this is the West Coast. And on the West Coast, they had just started this thing called cell phones. And they were pretty neat. They're the bricks. Remember those? The bricks? Yeah. But in Hawaii, what we had were mobile phones. And mobile phones is you get a transcender unit. It's a box. And it's a two-way radio. And in your vehicle, you have a phone. And you pick up the phone and you have to get a dial tone. And if you didn't have a dial tone, you push a button and it'll put you on wait, on hold. And when the dial tone comes through, you pick it up and you make your phone call. Very primitive, very expensive. they charge you by the minute. And the signals were very weak because the repeating stations, few far between, and they were all line of sight. You had to be in the site. So if you went into, sometimes if you went behind a building, it would cut, you drop the call. Don't even think about going to the east coast, I mean the east side of Oahu or Honolulu, or the west side of Honolulu. There's no signal. Don't think about going on the windward side of Honolulu. There was no signal. But in the city, sometimes you have a really good day. But like I said, it was very expensive. I believe it was like 23 or 27 cents a minute. My monthly bills would be close to $2,000 just for my mobile phone, and I used a lot of my 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 places of business, my repair shops and my dealerships and stuff. I use their phone a lot. So if you'd call me, you'd get my answering service. They would give me a digital page, and then I'd have to call them back to get the number and the message. You'd leave a message, so it wasn't instantaneous, but that was the system we had. So this cell phone system to me sounded really good because it was really clear. You don't wait for an open line. You just call the number. And when I got back to Honolulu, I asked my Motorola. In those days, Motorola was the head cheese of the communication industry. So I asked my salesman, "Hey, what is this cell phone thing?" Because on the West Coast, that's the rage. And he said, "Don't worry about it because we're not going to get it for years." And 1985, guess what came and hit Hawaii? The cell phones. But the first cell phones, they were pretty good, but compared to what we had, they were like night and day. But the only, we had drawbacks. Again, you get drop calls. The battery on those bricks allowed you only 40 to 45 minutes of talking time, of actual usage time. And I believe it was 3.5 hours of standby time or something like that. So you turn it on only when you needed to use it. So it kind of useless if people are gonna call you unless you walk around with these. And the batteries are pretty big. If I remember, they're like 2 by 2 by almost 2.5. They were bricks, and it was a brick. It looked like a two-way portable radio, but it was a sign of prestige to walk around with one. And I picked up one of those, and they weren't cheap. The brick cost 4,500, and then I had a teleportable unit. Teleportable unit was a box. It was made by Panasonic, and it took a battery from a camcorder. And if you guys remember those batteries were like 6 inches by 2.5 inches by almost an inch thick. I mean, they were big batteries, and these batteries, would not last long too. But the transportable unit could plug into your truck. It could plug into the cigarette lighter in the truck, and it would get its power off of that, which was really good because then you wouldn't have to worry about battery power. But it's really bad because now you can talk way more and your usage goes way up, right? So you got to really watch that. In fact, I had one customer. I picked him up, and he wanted to use my phone, and I told him no because you pay by the minute. And he told me no, 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 no. I pay. He was Korean. So what I had him do was I had him sign the toll bill that customer agrees to pay for the minutes on the phone. And I timed him. And he talked it's all of a sudden he needs, communication, But anyway, he just wanted to act. And so he talked to his friend all the way in, and we came in from the east side of Oahu. Took me about half an hour. So his phone bill, I charged him an extra $22, I think, for the phone. I charged him a dollar a minute. I'm gonna make money too, because he's preventing me from using the phone. My page is going off. I gotta call, customers. He's stopping me. So fine. I mean, he signed, and I told him dollar a minute, and he said fine. So he used it. And then when we got to the dealership, came to find out that his towing wasn't covered by the warranty, because whatever was wrong with the vehicle was not covered by the warranty, or if he even had a warranty. And so he had the tow bill plus 20 something dollars, and he grumbled. He grumbled so much, and I was just laughing because he had to pay. They were not going to give him his car until he paid. But that was that's Hawaii. That's how far back, we're always behind. We're always playing catch up. But so I had my own towing company, and I have to admit, and this is not, this is a truth, that I was number one in the state. No other one man operation could boast my volume or my sales. I can say that I'm the only person in Hawaii to have towed the Batmobile. Remember the original Batmobile? Well, these producers, the producer of a car show brought it in, and the designer of the car had heard about me because while his friend was in Hawaii, his friend rented a car from Budget, and he broke down. And this is like a Saturday night, and he was again out the east side. And let me, the way I got a lot of my after hour tows from the east side was that in those days, when you needed a tow, you would call 411, which is the local information at the phone company. And if you say I need a tow company, they'd ask where you were. And if you were anywhere east of, say, Ala Moana Center or Waikiki, all the way until the eastmost point, which is Makapu'u, you were given two towing companies, because only two companies were registered in the East Oahu. One was TLC Towing, Tender Loving Care, and the other was Hides, Hides. Looks like Hides Towing, but it's Japanese, so it's Hides Towing. And you were given a choice of both of them. And that was your only choice, so you'd call one of them, right? Well, I own them both. Yeah, they were both my companies. And so I kind of got the after hour calls, the private calls, and those calls, cash only. Unless you take them to a commercial, commercial company that is one of my companies, then I can put it onto your bill. I have a charge with that company. A lot of times, it was the dealerships. I towed for the Lincoln Mercury dealership, the Chrysler Plymouth dealership, not the a Honda dealership, Acura, Mazda, Nissan, BMW. I had those dealerships. And when you bought a car from them, in the glove box, there was a car for Hides TLC towing service. And this is before we had the 24-hour, like I told you, AAA was just starting. The car companies didn't offer a 24-hour service. So this is another selling point for cars. And they use them. They said, hey, this guy is available. I was available 364 days a year, 24 hours a day. That's why when I got rid of my company, I also said I am not going to be accessible again, because unless you've experienced it, you don't want to be accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because people do drive 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I had my own towing company, and I was number one, and I was very successful. And then I got sick. I burned myself out. Stupid, but then that's life, right? You learn. And I took off 1994 to recuperate. And I started um, after 94. I was going to start a new business in April of 1995. But there were other plans. God had other plans for me. And one of them was my mom went to bed on Tuesday, January 24th, 1995, and she did not wake up Wednesday. She died in her sleep of pneumonia. We didn't know she had it. And my dad had full blown dementia, and he needed 24-hour care. And that's kind of logical. You're not working, and dad needs somebody. So I told my brother and sister, I'm going to take care of dad. And my sister said, "Hey, you're a truck driver. What do you know about taking care of dad? You don't even have kids. She has two." And I said, "Look at you. You didn't know how to take care of kids. You did all right. You did very well. I can learn, and I will learn." And my brother and my sister. Well, my brother was married, and he had his kids, and my sister lived in the mainland, and she had her family. So it made sense. I said, I'm not going to pay half of what I gross, and in those days it was pretty sizable because of the care that my dad needed because he was demented. You got to really watch these people, if not they wander away, and they're liable. So the responsible places really cost a lot of money. I said I'm not going to pay that kind of money when I can do it. I just got to learn how. And so I had my dad for about 10 and a half years until July of 2005. And so I was his caregiver. And, when he went for checkups or he had to go to the hospital for, like, when we put his feeding tube in, his pig, the nurses would compliment me saying, your dad's really clean. And I would say, "Oh, thank you." But inside, I'm thinking, what are they talking about? Clean. Of course he's clean. But it wasn't until after dad passed away, his doctor, which became my doctor, asked me, "What you going to do?" And I told him, "I'm going to go back to driving, I guess. And then I want to start I wanted to start a t-shirt company." He said, "No, no, 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 no. You go into healthcare. You're really good at it because when you're at home and you do home healthcare, you have a lot more flexibility of the things you can learn. I mean, I learned how to start IVs in case my dad needed antibiotics. I learned how to straight cath through a catheter through the urethra to relieve him of his urine. You you learn how to give enemas. You learn how to didge. You learn how to clean. You learn about wound care. I mean, you learn a lot of things that you can't do in the hospital because of liabilities, but you can do at home because you're doing it for your own person. So the liabilities are way different. So he taught me as much as he could, and I caught on, and he was very impressed because he said, "No, you go into healthcare, you get yourself certified, and I'll get you a job at the hospital." And that's how I started at the hospital. I started part time, and the only thing open was part time, weekends, and holidays, working in the ICU. And I did, and I caught on. And then when a full time position opened up, it was in med surge on the surgery side, the orthopedic unit. Took a job there, and I worked on that unit for about a year, and then and then there was an opening for a tech in the ICU, and they pulled me right in because whenever I could on weekends, I would work in the ICU. The ICU at that time did not have any weekend tech, and those nurses, they were hurting. They needed a weekend tech, and so a lot of times and we worked contractually every other weekend. So they would put me in the ICU. And it was a combination of ICU, and then we had another unit called CCU, cardiac care unit, which is another critical care unit. And I would work over there. So when the opening came for critical care, they just chose me. And I worked there for 12 years. I also did stints in the ER because they're critical care also. And because of my size, I was the baby. We have no resident psychologists. So if we had an attempted suicide, normally they would take them to another establishment because the other establishment had a medical psycho ward. But once in a while, it slips through the crack, and it would come to us, and I would become babysitter. I don't know why, but and I would work them until we could get a psychiatrist on board because we had none on retainer. So we'd have to find one. They'd have to come, review them, and then recommend where they have to go. So I retired. When I retired, I left the hospital in 2018. That's another story, also healthcare. But there are so many healthcares. But now you know something about me. Hopefully, if you want to learn more, and there's so many more stories are going to come out when we talk about different subjects, and that you have to please and give me suggestions of what you want me to talk about. And at this time, this is just before Christmas, and I just want to end this presentation by wishing all of you a very Merry Christmas. I do believe in Christmas, but I believe in the spirit of Christmas. Everything is in the spirit. You guys know that, I'm agnostic. I believe in God, but I believe in that man is good. I really got hopes for mankind. We just gotta learn. We gotta quit being so arrogant. We gotta learn. And maybe one day we will. We will actually evolve. Yes, I am a believer of creation. That's another story, see? I mean, all of these stories, they're all intertwined, but they can all go certain ways. But at this time of the year, it's a time of reflection, time of regrets, time of, just think about how your year went because you're getting ready for a new year. And it's just you have to appraise yourself. You have to really review yourself and make changes that you have to. But you should always be doing that. But this time particularly is more stronger. And I just want to say from myself to all of you out there, a very Merry Christmas. And hopefully I can get another production in next week before the New Year's. Because I have to tell you about Hawaii and New Year's. If you've never experienced a New Year's Eve in Honolulu, you gotta make plans to come here. It's it's an experience. You eat till you're tired, but it's a visual experience. But until then, as I always do, ahuiho, maalama pono, and aloha.